Smiley from the Energy Boutique with your energy and ascension forecast for Sunday, June 25th to Saturday, July 1st. So last week we had our new moon in Gemini, of course, that followed just hours after Saturn, the Lord of Karma, went retrograde. And the new moon in Gemini happened just before Jupiter and Saturn had their sextile. Very magical energy there. Definitely opened up the door to taking some action, to moving forward, to receiving some puzzle pieces. And of course, we had to close out Gemini season just hours after that as the sun entered into Cancer energy and of course triggered the solstice. So this week we are going to be wrapping up June. Go ahead, go back, take a listen to what June was supposed to teach you. See if you are in alignment before we jump into a brand new month with a brand new vibration, a brand new particular life lesson that we will have to learn. We will be wrapping up Mercury's time in his place of power in Gemini energy as we transition into Cancer energy there on the 26th. We also have the first quarter moon taking place in Libra on the 26th as well, as we build towards the full moon in Capricorn energy that will be taking place July 3rd. And of course, if we're talking about July, we are transiting into a new energy, a new vibration, a new frequency that will, of course, be very well explained in July's energy forecast that we can expect later on this week. And of course, the astro forecast for all the zodiac signs as well. Big week, busy week ahead of me. I don't know about y'all, but the end of the month, the beginning of the month, very, very busy time for myself where the astrology is concerned. So we're definitely moving into a different vibration, a different frequency. Many of us already feeling the shift moving into Cancer season. A lot of whiny complainers out there that we knew were going to just come out of the woodwork with Cancer season. That's what happens every freaking year. You get all these people saying, oh, I can't wait to get out of Gemini season. My head's going to explode. Oh, I can't wait for my head to calm down. The Gemini season's too much. I need Cancer season. I need Cancer season. 12 hours into it, they're already curling up in a ball, crying. The melancholy, the romanticizing of the past, the whiny victimhood mentality. Let's hope that we get through this first decan of Cancer energy very fast so that we can put that whininess to an end so that we can boss up, realize what it is that we're being offered, which is a beautiful opportunity to get back to the basics of what it is that we absolutely need in our lives to feel safe, to feel secure, to feel stable, not only in our emotional realm, but in our physical realms as well. That solstice energy, very potent. Of course, many people can't handle the vibes, can't handle the energy, re-throwing themselves, if you will, back into the very beginning stages of Ascension symptoms. And of course, every single time we level up to a new vibration and a new frequency, we have new wounds, new pain, new trauma to heal. So therefore, everybody's going through it, let's say. Different ascension symptoms coming out, different perspectives emerging, different emotions rising to the surface. It is an adjustment period. It does not feel good. We never start a brand new karmic chapter feeling strong and empowered. It always starts off pretty weak, pretty unstable, pretty shaky. It's the buildup to that stability that we're currently in. And of course, it does not feel good. I don't know why anybody thought that we were going to change energies overnight. There was definitely a palpable shift, but Cancer season, typically speaking, it's a water sign, always brings on the waterworks, always brings on a bout of depression, always brings on a very sentimental, highly nostalgic, super, super sensitive perspective. We need that with a water sign. All of the mental power that we were sitting in Gemini season, we bring all of that down into the heart space. And yes, there is a crash coming from all of that electricity into emotion and intuition. And so we are just in the very beginning stages of opening up this karmic cycle. We are still very much in the adjustment period. Many people feeling that shift, feeling that energy, and it does not feel good. So before I jump into the Ascension symptoms, which I'm probably going to rush through here because I have no want, need, or desire to sit in the repetitious funk of what we talk about here every week, I'm going to kind of breeze through it. I have a couple of rants that I think would be better suited than to sit down and talk about the same old Ascension symptoms. We will cover that. However, they're getting pretty repetitious, guys. Like, we've been in this. And if you don't understand that we learn and we progress in a cyclic spiral nature, then you need to understand that, because there is no end in sight. We will always have something to heal. We will always have to feel in order to heal. We will always be pushing the boundaries of our comfort zone. So it is highly advisable that you just stop wondering when the ride is going to end and start looking at it like an adventure, because we're on this thing until we transition into spirit. So instead of being whiny about it, instead of complaining about it, that many of us are kind of in that mood and attitude to do because of the Cancer season, let's just flip the script and understand that this is a wonderful roller coaster ride of adventure that we are not getting off anytime soon, so that we can start looking at the ride, if you will, the course that we have to take on this ride, and understand where there's highs, where there's lows, where we're going to enjoy ourselves, where we're probably going to puke, and just accept that we're on this ride for quite some time. Before I jump in all that, I just want to thank you. I want to thank you for being here. I want to thank you for liking and sharing and commenting and subscribing. You all are helping the algorithm kind of put me back into a place that allows people that actually are interested in my content to see it, to actually receive it, the notifications as well. I've had a lot of newbies kind of trip over my channel over the last week and a half, and I sincerely really want to thank all of those beautiful souls out there that are continuing to push my content and to share and to like and to comment and all those wonderful things, because it means that new people trip over this channel, get the information that they need. And of course, my essential message is that we're not alone and that you're not cray cray. So because we're in Cancer season, I am going to advise that you download the e-guide. I have taken the time to map out what Cancer season is going to be for each and every single one of us. We zoom in on all of the astro events. There's nice little writing prompts there for you to kind of do a deep dive in the shadow work that we're all required to do, and to kind of understand what each season is kind of offering us an opportunity to resolve. Of course, Cancer season, highly emotional, super sensitive. We are recognizing not only where it is that we're coming from, but where it is that we desire to go, and what it is that we have to build in our lives as far as routines, systems, and structures in order for us to bridge the gap from where it is that we're at to where it is that we desire to be. So if you are wondering where all of my energy updates went, all of my little like memes and infographics, that's over on Patreon. I am doing the absolute bare minimum on Facebook, on Instagram, on YouTube. Everything over and above what you're seeing as far as these daily forecasts, all of that is on Patreon. So I definitely recommend that you jump over to Patreon, you support me over there if you're interested in getting all the highs, all the lows, and everything in between. The reason why I bring this up is because I've had a lot of people ask me, especially here on YouTube, my thoughts on certain events, my thoughts, my perspective, my intuition, my insight on certain events that are going on the great grand global stage. If I do not rant about it here in these Ascension forecasts, then you can bet that I've ranted about it over on my Patreon. And this past week, we had an astro class, because I put the astro class out every Wednesday, had an astro class that I kind of went on a squirrel rant about. We threw the Schumann Resonance in there. We threw flat earth in there. We threw all kinds of different concepts because of the solstice, because of the energy, looking at the patterns, looking at the cyclic nature of everything, looking at, chemtrails, 5G, the whole 9 yards, which I constantly get asked about to talk about here on this channel. And sometimes I do. And then I get a slap on my hands, on my wrist, on my butt from YouTube. They give me a red flag, censor me. And then, of course, the struggle is real. I got to build myself back up. We got to build the channel back up. And it's just not worth it. Patreon has at least offered me a platform that isn't as censored as some of the platforms that I am currently just tired with. And so this is why I'm constantly plugging Patreon. Jump over, join me over there. So we talked about the Schumann resonance and the really wackadoodle patterns that it was kind of creating. And I think it's very interesting. I wanted to talk about this for a second because today there is a nice little picture on the Schumann resonance of a gentleman that most people have grown to hate, only because, the media tells us to. And therefore, this is proof to back up my rant about the Schumann resonance that I put on Patreon for our astro class here on Wednesday this week. This is proof that we cannot trust the Schumann resonance. Okay, hate to burst your bubble, but it's all manipulated. It's all part of the spiritual psychosis that this whole new age spiritual community is currently sitting in. You cannot trust any kind of information outside of yourself, guys. This is why I preach time and time again. You got to trust yourself. You got to build yourself up. You have to listen to your intuition, trust your own instincts. You do not need to look outside of yourself for any kind of power, any kind of validation for what it is that you're currently feeling, experiencing, and going through. So talking about the fact that we have to trust ourselves, that we have to kind of understand where it is that, we can no longer look outside of ourselves for validation for what it is that we are thinking, what it is that we are experiencing. Everybody wants to talk about this freaking submarine, so let's do it. I don't know why you guys buy into this stuff. You have to understand that anything that takes over the mass media is fake. It is not real. It is meant to distract you. And time again, they are proving to be all powerful because even those people out here that understand that this was a plot, a storyline to not only derail us from the important things going on in the world, but to kind of spark some interest on some topics and themes that need to bring some education into this here and now, this everyday awareness on what happened in the past. I mean, even the people who understand that it is a setup are talking about it. And it bothers me that now I have to talk about it because now I have to pour into the psychosis and the delusion in order to address my thoughts and my insight, which I would rather just keep to myself, to be quite honest, because people don't understand where I'm coming from a lot of the time. That being said, do I think that there was a submarine? Yes. Do I think that there was people on the submarine? Yes. Do I think it actually went down to the bottom of the ocean to explore the Titanic and it imploded? Absolutely not. This is a setup, okay? This is a setup for a couple of reasons. Take a good look at who was on this freaking little adventure, okay? There is a really good reason why these particular storylines come up. First of all, we have to understand we got to get the hell out of the oceans. We have no business being in the oceans, first and foremost. That's it. There are more, I'm going to say, extraterrestrial roots in the ocean than there are up in the sky in the space. Let's just clear that out. Secondly, this is I'm going to say, major distraction from a lot of political things that are going on right now, and they are doing a beautiful job of it because nobody's talking about all of the gold coming out of Canada and going to the Ukraine. Nobody's talking about the 6 point whatever million or billion, can't even remember, dollars that was paid to Ukraine as a mistake from the US. Nobody is talking about the Biden trials. Nobody is talking about the 700 refugees that were literally sent out to the ocean in order to basically execute them by quote unquote accident. Nobody's talking about that. There's a lot of things that nobody's talking about. And what this is also doing is further creating the divide. Why has this submarine turned into a rich versus poor? I understand that, rich people, they have resources, they have a lot of pull, a lot of power. But at the same time, all of these little storylines are being created to further divide the people. And I don't know why we can't see this at this particular point and juncture of the timeline of where it is that we're at in, the evolution of our spiritual knowledge, of our enlightenment. I don't understand why we further to pour into these narratives that we know are fake, that we know are constructed in order to distract us from something else. And I think we should all know by now that if something was really true, if something was really important, if something was really, really, I'm going to say, important to the quote unquote top of the food chain, we would not be hearing about it on mainstream media. That is just not how it works. We should have learned from this little pandemic that whatever the world is talking about, whatever, all the radio stations, all the news networks, whatever it is that they're talking about, it's their storyline, their fantasy, their particular narrative that they want us to be absorbed in. Anytime that there is truth, anytime that there is anything of importance, they're not going to be talking about it. We're not going to hear about it. So I kind of get, I want to say a little bit frustrated because every single time that a new narrative emerges, suddenly we all just forget. I don't know. We all just forget, I guess. And I'm not sure what that's about, but we fall victim into, talking about it and debating over it and arguing over it. Like, honestly, who really cares? And I mean that as nice as possible. I'm not insensitive to, I understand that maybe some people died. And I say maybe very lightly because I don't even think that that's true. It's got to be an insurance scam, or it's got to be a neatly constructive little plan here. Again, take a look at the people that were on board. They're not just everyday average millionaires, guys. They hold very, very powerful placements in the decision-making process of what it is that the world is currently trying to fight against. And so, I'm probably going to get some mixed reviews, some very confused comments and feedback from what it is that I just said, but y'all have got to trust your intuition. Now, here's the thing. There's a lot of, as you know, there's a lot of fake spiritual people out there on these platforms. And I shouldn't be surprised, but at the same time, I just can't understand how all of these quote unquote spiritual people just suddenly jump online and then they're talking about, oh, I had a vision of this. I had a dream of this. Oh, it's the controller that went bad. Like, the capitalistic nature of some of these just gross, disgusting individuals is just appalling to me. And I just don't know how much longer we are going to have to wait in order to actually see Saturn, who is the Lord of Karma, who is now retrograde in Pisces energy, just kind of beat down all these delusional, dysfunctional, corrupted, spiritual, quote unquote, spiritual individuals, right? Like, the delusion has got to fall. And this is where we're currently at in the process. And this particular submarine situation is a delusion at its most finest point, and like I have family members that are still very stuck in the matrix, that do not understand what I talk about, how I see things. It is very frustrating. I know you know what I'm talking about because many of us are the black sheep of the family. We're the awakened ones. We're the ones that are here to break the generational trauma. And we're dealing with family members around us that will not wake up if their lives depended on it, do not understand our crazy perspectives because we're, tinfoil conspiracy theorists, but trying to listen to the people that are still glued to the TV that literally like, hey, did you hear about the submarine? Like, very excited. Like, we're all crisis junkies at this point, right? And my father in particular, who is very old school, very consumed with, world events like as such that we're talking about. He says, he rattles off the key points that any, media outlet are covering. And he says, geez, that's hard to believe, isn't it? Now, there's the key factor right there. If a story is hard to believe, it's because it's not true. Let's get real about that, okay? Like, he was saying, can you imagine, like, getting into that thing and paying all that money for that, and like it's all operated on like a cheap game controller? Can you believe that? Well, no, Dad, I actually can't because I have a brain, okay? I'm a critical thinker. No, it doesn't make sense. No, it is, I can't believe it. It is hard to believe because it's not true. It's fake. And so this is what I'm saying. Like, I'm sure you can hear the agitation and frustration in my voice because I almost get stomach sick that now I am in a situation where I get to join up with you beautiful people every Friday evening, here in the chat especially. And I'm not going to say expected to talk about these things, but people want me to talk about this. Like, I have emails, I have DMs, please talk about the submarine, please talk about the Schumann Resonance, please talk about this, please talk about that. And they're all 3D constructs that I give no time and energy to. And if I didn't have this platform, if I didn't, have this, I'm going to say, calling/obligation to bring this information forward on a daily and in this case weekly basis, I would not be talking about this in my regular life. I would not even probably know about this because I wouldn't need to be informed about what's going on in the world in order to translate it for those of us that are still having a hard time with discernment. And so it is frustrating because, like I said, now I'm pouring into the delusion. Now I'm spending time and energy pouring into a falsity. And I hate that. I hate that for myself. But here we are, we're talking about it. So, those are my 2 cents. You don't need to align with me. You don't need to agree with me, but people ask me to talk about it. So this is me talking about it. Do I believe it? No. Do I think it's a scam? Yes. Do I think there's a greater ulterior motive? 100%. If what I'm going to say here, okay, if it actually did happen, and if those individuals actually were in this vessel, and if they actually did die on the bottom of the ocean, not that I'm being harsh, but that is their soul contract. That's what they wanted to do. And if you were that gung-ho to risk your life, to spend all that money, to go down and disrupt an already corrupted narrative, which the Titanic is, then I'm sorry, you're dying doing what you love, okay? They're probably in their peak epiphany of happiness at that particular point. And if all of this was true, and if it actually imploded, then guess what? They weren't scared. They weren't afraid. They didn't suffer. There was no pain. Just snap of the fingers. Those souls are gone. See you later. Sayonara. Gone, okay? I'm sure that if all of that happened, and we could get a medium, and I'm not doing it because I refuse to do mediumship anymore, if we could get an actual legit medium to talk to the souls that, have left this earth to go over to the spirit realm, 100% they would all agree that that's the way that they could have gone out. That's the way that they would have gone out. If you were in a situation where you're going to spend that much money and risk your life to go down in a tin can, essentially, to look at a situation that did take a whole bunch of innocent souls and innocent lives, then you know what? You're messing with the supernatural. You're messing with karma. You have no business being there. And you know what? The spiritual world snapped them souls real quick. That's the way that I look at things. Am I sensitive to, they died? Not so much. Everybody's going to die. Like I said, they went out doing what it is that they wanted to do. Should we feel bad about that? I don't. That's up to you if you want to spend energy to care about that type of situation, those types of people. I don't. When it comes to the innocent lives that died and the souls that had to, basically transit into the spirit realm due to the corrupted narrative that the Titanic was at the beginning anyways, yeah, I feel bad for those souls. In the great grand scheme of things, that is part of their soul contract. So, you can't feel too bad about it. But as you may know, I just have an interesting way of looking at things, looking at life. That is the way that I'm looking at this situation. I don't really want to give it much more time, much more energy. But you know what? When I have multiple people asking me to talk about it, you're probably not going to like what I have to say about it. But you know what? That's life. So again, those are my 2 cents. And we are going to move on to some important things, much more important things, which is our soul's evolution. Worry about your own soul and stay in your own lane and stay out of tin cans and stay out of the ocean. Okay, so let's talk about it. The ascension symptoms. First of all, let's break it down. We just jumped from an old karmic cycle, an old karmic chapter, to a new one. Does that ever feel good? No. Okay. Did we reach a new level of vibrations and frequencies? Yes. Does that ever feel good? No. Okay, does it feel like we're starting over again with some ascension symptoms? Well, some people, depending on their particular point in healing. I don't know, for those of you that have just recently come online as far as like 2020 goes, why y'all think that you should be over it by now. I'm 15 years deep and we're still going through it. And this is why I say you got to learn to appreciate the experience and to enjoy the ride, because it's not ending anytime soon. So this is what I say, like, you can't just sit back and let these ascension symptoms just rule your life and keep you debilitated. You got to do the work. You have to push through. You got to make sure that you're addressing the energetic concerns that your physical body is trying to make you aware of. That's the only way that you can ease the dis-ease in your physical bodies due to the energy blockages. So, you know, some of us are having the normal ascension symptoms. What are the normal ascension symptoms, you may ask? Well, could feel like you're coming down with a cold. Maybe you feel like you're coming down with the flu. Maybe your allergies are popping off. Whatever the case may be, there's been a trigger. There's been a flare, an activation in the physical body, in the physical form. We're not essentially starting over, but you got to understand, and I'll give you the concept of a video game. Let's say Super Mario Brothers, because everybody seems to have a point of reference as far as Super Mario Brothers go. When you beat the bad guy at the end of the game, well, let's say not even at the end of the game. Let's say end of the level, okay? So you go through a level, you beat the bad guy. You go to level 2. Okay, so you steam through level 2, you collect your coins, you try to level up, you're building up, you know, your vitality, you're collecting all of the things. You beat that boss. Okay, so now we're going to level 3. So we're not new into the game, right? We kind of know the gist of the game by the time we reach to level 3. But at the same time, we're starting over in a new level. And this is exactly what we have to kind of understand happens when we jump from one karmic chapter to the other. This isn't new. We've been here before. We know what to expect, but essentially we're in a new level. So there are going to be tougher challenges. It's going to require us to do the same kind of work, the same kind of pattern, the same objectives, but everything is a little bit harder, a little bit tougher, which means that we have to boss up. So in respect to the ascension symptoms, again, we will always have something to heal, always have something to process. Again, every single time that we have leveled up and we feel that we've healed something new, we are going to be tested in different ways. You can feel like you have brought as much closure to a pain, to a trauma, to a topic, to a theme as you possibly can, until 6 months down the road, suddenly you're in a circumstance that may look very different, but feels very much the same. And all of a sudden that trauma is triggered once again. Now, is it going to be as heavier as the first time it got triggered? No. Is it going to feel the same as all the other times that you tried to unpack it, process it, sort it out? No. But essentially, it's still there. It still needs attention. It still needs our, I'm going to say, hard work and energy and efforts to try and transmute it into something different, something lighter. But it is always going to be there. It is, we do not live in a linear type of fashion where we can say, oh, here's a problem, let me address it. Yeah, I healed it. Yes, it's over. So if you're walking around telling people that you've healed your pain and trauma, I'm sorry, but you're delusional, because there is always pain, there is always trauma. This is what part of being a human is that we are constantly healing the old while accumulating the new. And therefore, every single time we level up to a new awareness, a new level of enlightenment, a new level of consciousness, we can look back on our problems from a different set of eyes, from a different perspective. Doesn't mean that they're going away. It just means that we have less and less of a weight to actually carry in our physical body. So for those of us that are feeling like, oh my goodness, the ascension symptoms, there's so much, like I feel sick, they're starting over again, really dive in to the healing journey, guys, because there's an indication here that if you're constantly sick, if you're constantly puking, if you're constantly on the couch, if you're constantly dizzy, it's because you're not addressing the problem. And for those of you who say, oh, I've done the work, I've done the journaling, and I still have ascension symptoms. Yes, you will continue to have ascension symptoms because we are here in this earth plane. We are energetic beings rooted in these physical meat suits. We are living in an environment, in a matrix, and a construct that is made to make us sick. That is our physical body. Our soul, our spirit is always healthy. The goal here is to clear out the physical body gunk so that our soul and spirit can be happy and pain-free, living as pain-free as possible here in this very uncomfortable earth plane. So a lot of us are having the digestive issues. As you hear me talk about very often, the digestive issues are not going away. They're not going away anytime fast. Why is that? Well, because there's more nerves in our digestive system than anywhere else. Our nervous system is connected to emotions. Emotions are our internal compass. That's what makes us spiritual beings, is to have emotions and to use our emotion and our intuition in order to navigate this physical landscape. So whether you're hungry or whether your stomach's sick, that is an ascension symptom. That is a disruption, if you will, in the digestive tract. Now, I hope at this particular point that you're choosing to eat fruits and veggies that have life force energy in them instead of shoving junk food and heavier processing foods in your gut. And if you are complaining that you are feeling sick and that you're having all these ascension symptoms and you're still stuffing your face with, I'm going to say white flour, sugar, meat. Now, don't come at me with the meat because we're talking about like grocery store meat. Okay. If you can source organic, healthy meat to eat, all the power to you. When I talk about how meat is bad, it is because the meat that you're getting in the grocery store is not meat at all. Okay, so there is a difference there. Don't come at me. I always get hate whenever I say stay away from meat. To be honest with you, even the healthy meat, unless you have a very, very healthy digestive system, meat stays in your guts for a very long time and it rots and it creates a very not so nice situation in your intestines. So unless you are, having a healthy system, you should really stay away from the foods that are harmful and that are hard to process because you're only creating a shit show for yourself. And in most cases, I mean that very, very literally. We have a lot of hip pain, still leg pain as well. Again, a lot of that is because we want to move forward. We don't know what we're supposed to be doing. So that energy is kind of all trapped and all kind of stagnant up in our lower extremities. We have to understand that Cancer energy, although very emotional, very intuitive, sits on the axis with Capricorn energy. And the axis that they share is about safety, security, and stability. And it's also about building. Now, in the Cancer realm, which we're currently sitting in, this is about safety, security, and stability in our emotional realm. And the only thing that we should be building right now is a vision, is a dream, is an ability in order for us to stay strong, to stay stable, to stay grounded within ourselves so that we're not letting external events sway us one way or the other. Now, the Capricorn energy is where we actually build in the physical realm, where we manifest in the physical realm. We're not there. We're in Cancer energy. This is an inner realm building, not a physical realm building. Now, we are going to have that full moon in Capricorn, July 3rd. We'll talk about that more here next week than this week, but it is going to be a little bit of a action point, if you will. So for this point of Cancer season, up until the full moon in Capricorn, this is going to be an inner realm building situation, an inner realm emotional stabilizing situation. We may see some very, very interesting dynamics pop off with the full moon in Capricorn that will push us to actually being able to manifest or to bring action into this physical realm, but we're not there yet. We have about a week and a bit to go. And in that time, again, Mercury, ruler of the mental plane, ruler of information, ruler of communication, will be moving into the Cancer energy as well, which is going to provide us with a beautiful opportunity to blend our beautiful intellect with our emotions, with our intuition, and come up with a different perspective, a different opinion, a different, I'm going to say projection of self, because we have the heart and the head working together. Up until this point, all that Gemini energy was just cerebral. It was all up in the headspace. And that's why many of us feel down in the dumps, feel very depressed, feel very melancholy-ish, because all of that electric energy came from the cerebral down into the heart space when we entered into Cancer season. Cancer season is highly emotional. And this is why we're all like kind of wimpy complainers at this particular point in time. And again, once we get through the first decan, which is the first 10 degrees of any season, that is usually the, I'm going to say the hardest part, the jolt, if you will, the deconstruction, the disassembly, if you will, of our inner realms at this, for this example. And hopefully by the time we get past that 10th degree, then we're going to get a little bit more grounded, little bit more realistic with what it is that we got to do here in order to restabilize our inner realms of emotion. So I want to talk about the fact that there's going to be some serious temperature fluctuations, which usually come in with the solar flares, usually come in with the CMEs, but we don't necessarily need those particular events in order for us to feel the temperature fluctuation. And again, now that we know that the Schumann Resonance is 100% compromised, please, please, please learn to trust yourself. You do not need a graph to tell you when there are energy spikes. You do not need an app to tell you when there is a solar flare. You do not need anything outside of yourself in order to understand when the energy is shifting within you. So these temperature fluctuations are going to err more on the side of cold than they are warm or hot. Now, there is going to be the random hot flash that will just come out of nowheres, but even if you are in an environment where it is warm outdoors, you could be absolutely freezing. A lot of that is because we are in a water season. Water, although could be warmed, does need, I'm going to say, some intervention from man in order to be warm, essentially. And so the coldness that we're feeling is our emotions. It is our intuition. It is the energy that is trying to find its new alignment within our physical form. Because of course, when we enter into a new karmic chapter, there's always this realignment, recalibration that needs to take place. So there is going to be this temperature shift, and I feel, again, like it's going to be more cold than anything. We are super sensitive, so you are going to need to work on your, I'm going to say, spiritual hygiene and really kind of work on your energetic boundaries to make sure that the energy that you're currently sitting in is yours to own, because again, we're super sensitive, so we do have the ability to pick up on the subtle energies of people and our environment around us. So we want to make sure that our boundaries are strong. You'll often hear me talk about Cancer season about boundaries. Now, whether that is the boundaries of the framework that we're going to be building for ourselves or the boundaries that we need to implement in our personal relationships in order to protect ourselves, or the psychic or spiritual boundaries that we all need to strengthen each and every single day. Every single time we take a leap forward, let's say, or a leap up in timelines and vibrations and frequencies, we have to readjust our boundaries. The more and more sensitive we become, the stronger our boundaries need to be so that we're not taking on the energies of other people. That is like sensitive people 101. I want you to pay attention to the hormone fluctuation taking place in your body. And one would say, well, how am I supposed to track that? Well, one good indicator is, are you having breakouts around your jaw, around your chin line? That is a key indicator of your hormones fluctuating. We also can take indicators from our overall attitude or overall state of mind. If you are feeling a little bit wonky in your mood or attitude, that is likely due to hormone fluctuations. And because we are in Cancer season, the feminine divine energies, where the sun, the masculine energy, is in the moon's realm, there is a balancing that is needed between the masculine and feminine energies and the hormones that go along with it. We all have them. There is nobody walking on this earth right now in a biological body or a non-biological body that does not have some kind of hormone fluctuation. So we have to pay attention to what it is that our bodies are going through, what is changing, and we have to understand that this is just another attempt to get in alignment. So our intuition is super sensitive as well, which is going to create a lot of spiritual psychosis for those of us that do not have strong enough spiritual boundaries in order to understand what energy is ours, what energy is not. It is also going to create more delusion, more confusion, if you will, for those newbies that are constantly kind of, diving into all of the misinformation out there. And this is a time where your intuition is going to be tested. Our intuition is always very strong in Cancer season, and it is going to be tested many, many, many times over. Not even to mention that Neptune will be going retrograde. I forgot to mention that in my little ramble of what's going on this week. But June 30th, we have Neptune joining Saturn and Pluto, who is already retrograde. And let me just say that it's going to have a major impact on our dreams, on our intuition. Now, our dreams have been wonky as F anyways, but here's what I'm saying. This is not only just dreams in a dream state. This is the dream, the vision, the goal that you're constantly working on in your mental plane and in your heart space. And when Neptune goes retrograde, we have to get our head out of the clouds. We actually have to put energy and effort forth in order to actually bring our dreams to life. And we're not going to be able to align with our intuition as much as we would like, because the delusion and confusion that comes with Neptune and Pisces makes it so confusing, so that we literally learn that we have to trust ourselves. Now, we always come out of a Neptune retrograde more of a spiritual warrior, stronger in our intuition, clearer on the dreams and visions that we want to manifest. But we're sitting in this confusion and delusion for about 4.5 months. And this is really going to put us in a different situation to learn our energetic and spiritual boundaries, mostly the hard way. Let's just be honest. Now, there is going to be some cramping, some real cramps going on in the body. Not just in the stomach, although the digestive system does kind of suggest that we are going to have crampy issues there. Not only in our legs and our lower extremities, but you could just have a Charlie horse anywheres. I don't know if you ever had a cramp in your eyeball, but that really hurts. A cramp in your sinuses, that really hurts. It is a very weird sensation that I think brings about, some tremors, some shaking, some vibrating. But just realize that those cramps are indicators where there's energy blockages, and where the light code's coming in from the cosmos, from the sun, from the CMEs, from the solar flares, where the energy is having a hard time flowing nicely with grace and ease through the meridian channels of your physical body. So those cramps are almost like the light codes attacking the old light codes in order to break them up and kind of get them out of there, right? So as painful and as harmful as, cramps and tremors and shaking may be, just realize that it's actually a good indicator that we're breaking things up in order for us to kind of get that gunk out of our bodies, in order for us to resonate at a higher vibration and frequency and allow that energy to move through our physical bodies with a lot more ease than what it is that they're currently doing. Pay attention to dry lips, literally burning lips. And to take it even further than that, and it's really, really strange because we're in a water season. So water season should be nice and cool and soothing and lubricating and moist, if you will. But we're definitely in the extremes of things right now through the realignment, recalibration that we're going through. It's not just the dry lips, it's dry mucosa, period. So anywhere where there's that soft type of skin, like your cheeks, the mucosa around your eyeballs, your inner orifices, if you will. There's all kinds of sensitive points in our physical body where our skin is a little bit thinner, a little bit more sensitive than normal, and that those areas are going to show signs of being dry. They could be burning. They could have red spots, red bumps, rash. Pay attention to that anywhere's on the body. We are also going to be feeling the itchiness. Again, itchiness is a good sign of healing, but most of this itchiness, I think, is going to be in the throat and in the ears. We're definitely, especially with Mercury kind of on his way, moving into a new sign. There's always a disruption in our thought process and in our throat chakras, and it makes it very uncomfortable, very itchy, very, I'm going to say just an irritant, period. Whether you're clearing your throat or needing to swallow, or it's itchy, or whatever the case may be, there's some kind of attention being kind of brought to the throat chakra. And, it is going to be time for us to have some heart-to-heart, some very sentimental, heartfelt conversations once Mercury moves into Cancer energy. And I think we're getting prepped and primed, just kind of preparing our vocal cords for that little expression, if you will. So guys, I know that this is probably shorter than my normal hour, but I think I'm going to wrap it up. I don't really want to sit here and kind of repeat myself again with all of the Ascension symptoms that should just be common knowledge at this particular point. And as far as my ranting goes, I think I talked about all the topics that I wish I didn't have to talk about. So with that being said, I greatly appreciate you being here. I want to thank you for dropping an emoji in the comments because that keeps the algorithm going. I want to thank you for showing up in the chat, for spending your time and your energy with me. And I'm sending you nothing but love. We'll talk to you soon.